I still remember the way everyone looked at me when I walked into that courtroom. Their eyes held the same judgment I had seen 100 times before. Doubt, amusement, even irritation. To them, I was just a teenage girl who had wandered into the wrong place. The judge barely spared me a glance as he adjusted his glasses and sighed. "Young lady, are you lost? This is a courtroom, not a school assembly." I tightened my grip on my briefcase, keeping my voice steady. "I know exactly where I am, Your Honor. I'm here to represent my client." The courtroom went silent. The prosecutor, a middle-aged man with a smug smile, chuckled. "Is this some kind of joke? Where's the real attorney?" I took a deep breath and met his gaze. "I am the real attorney." The judge shook his head in disbelief. "You can't possibly." He picked up his papers, scanning them, and then his expression changed. "Wait. You passed the bar?" I nodded. "At 15, Your Honor." The murmurs in the room grew louder. The prosecutor's smirk disappeared. The judge sat back, clearly taken aback. For the first time in my life, I saw the shift. That moment when people realized I wasn't just a kid playing dress-up. I was here to win. And I wasn't backing down. The judge finally nodded, his expression still one of disbelief. "Well, this is certainly a first. I've never had a teenager come before me with such claims." His voice was a little softer now, but his eyes still held skepticism. The prosecutor, not one to be outdone, raised an eyebrow. "So what's your plan here, kid? You think you can outsmart me?" His words were laced with mockery, as though the idea of me even attempting to argue in court was laughable. I didn't flinch. "I believe the law speaks for itself, Mr. Johnson. It's not about outsmarting anyone. It's about presenting the truth." I could hear the whispers from the gallery, the audience watching the case unfold. Some people were in awe, while others were clearly amused by the whole spectacle. But I knew I couldn't let that distract me. I had a job to do. The prosecutor seemed to enjoy the attention. He stood tall, towering over me. "You're just a kid. What do you know about the law? About real consequences? About anything, really?" I glanced at my client, a young man who was facing charges he didn't deserve. I could see the worry in his eyes. That was all the motivation I needed. I wasn't about to let this man, this smug, overconfident man, mock me. "I know what justice looks like," I said firmly, "and I know how to fight for it." I could feel the tension in the room, like everyone was holding their breath, waiting for my next move. The judge raised an eyebrow but said nothing, clearly intrigued despite himself. It was my moment. The courtroom fell into a strange silence, the kind that hangs in the air just before something big happens. The prosecutor stood there, stunned for a moment, not expecting me to respond with such confidence. He tried to recover, but I could tell his words were starting to lose their edge. "I'm still waiting for your defense, young lady," he said, his voice dripping with disdain. "Perhaps you'd like to explain why this so-called evidence matters, or why you think it could possibly make a difference in this case." I had to admit, the pressure was mounting, but I wasn't about to let his intimidation tactics get to me. I opened my briefcase slowly, my heart pounding, but I kept my face calm. I knew I had everything I needed: facts, witnesses, and a strong argument. All I had to do was present it. I pulled out my notes and stood up straight, facing the judge. "Your Honor, the prosecution's argument is based on a misunderstanding of the evidence. They failed to see the full picture. I'm here to correct that." I could see the judge's eyebrow raise, his earlier skepticism now mixed with curiosity. "Go ahead then, I'm listening." I turned to face the jury, my voice clear and confident. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you've been shown evidence that, on the surface, seems damning. But what you haven't been told is the full story. Let me explain what's really at play here." The prosecutor opened his mouth to interrupt, but I was already speaking, my words flowing with the precision and care of someone far older than my years. The defendant was caught in a compromising situation, yes, but that doesn't tell the whole story. You see, there's a critical piece of evidence that the prosecution has conveniently ignored. A witness, one that was never called to testify, who can confirm the defendant's innocence. The entire courtroom went quiet. The judge leaned forward. The prosecutor froze. This wasn't just a case anymore. This was a game changer. I glanced at my client, who was looking at me now with wide eyes filled with hope. For the first time since we'd started this case, I saw a flicker of relief in his gaze, and that, I realized, was all I needed. I wasn't just fighting for the truth. I was fighting for someone who needed it more than anything. The room was still, the tension palpable. I could feel every set of eyes on me, waiting for the next move. The prosecutor, realizing he had been caught off guard, stood up and slammed his hand down on the desk. "This is absurd. There's no such witness." But I wasn't backing down. I stood my ground, meeting his challenge head-on. "Actually, there is, Mr. Johnson, and I have the contact information for the witness right here." I pulled a sheet of paper from my briefcase, unfolded it, and handed it to the judge. His eyes scanned the document quickly, and I could see the change in his expression. "Mr. Johnson, it seems this witness was, in fact, overlooked," the judge said, his voice much firmer than before. "I will allow their testimony. You failed to provide the necessary context for your case." I felt a rush of relief flood over me, but I couldn't let myself relax just yet. This was far from over. The prosecutor's face flushed with frustration, but he didn't dare argue further. "Very well," he muttered. "Proceed." As the witness took the stand, I could sense the shift in the room. The facts were finally coming together. The pieces of the puzzle that had once seemed scattered and out of place were now fitting neatly into place. With each word the witness spoke, my client's innocence became clearer. But it wasn't just the testimony that changed things. It was the look in the eyes of the people in that courtroom, especially the judge. For the first time, I saw genuine respect in his gaze. I wasn't just the kid they'd underestimated. I was the one who had brought the truth to light. When the witness finished, I looked at the judge, my heart racing. "Your Honor, with this new evidence, we can clearly see that the defendant was in the wrong place at the wrong time. He should never have been charged." The judge nodded slowly, his expression thoughtful. "I agree, young lady. I'm ready to rule." And then, the moment we had all been waiting for arrived. The judge raised his gavel and spoke. "The charges against the defendant are hereby dropped. This case is dismissed." A wave of relief washed over me as I watched my client's face light up. He'd been through so much, and now, thanks to the truth, he was finally free. But I couldn't help but feel something else, something deeper than the victory itself. I had proven not just to them, but to myself, that age didn't define ability. This was my moment. As the judge's gavel came down, the courtroom erupted into a mix of relief and disbelief. My client, shaking and overwhelmed, was ushered out of the courtroom by his family, who hugged him tightly, grateful beyond words. I stood there for a moment, letting the weight of what had just happened settle in. I had won. Against all odds, I had won. But then, something unexpected happened. The judge, who had been so skeptical of me from the beginning, called out, "Young lady, I need to speak with you for a moment." I turned, not sure what to expect. The judge had been harsh, dismissive even, but now, his tone was different. There was a sort of respect in his eyes, something that hadn't been there before. I walked up to him, trying to keep my composure. "Yes, Your Honor." He took off his glasses and set them on the table, looking me over with a careful expression. "I have to admit, I was wrong about you. I didn't think you were capable of handling this case, but you've proven me wrong. You've shown me that age doesn't matter when it comes to intelligence, passion, and dedication." I blinked, taken aback by his words. He wasn't just acknowledging my skills, he was admitting that he had underestimated me. That meant more to me than I could say. "Thank you, Your Honor," I said, my voice soft but full of sincerity. "I just wanted to do what was right." He nodded. "I can see that. You're going places, young lady. Places where people like me will need to take a step back and watch you rise." I didn't know what to say to that. My mind was still spinning from everything that had happened. "But there's one thing I want to make clear," the judge continued, a smile creeping onto his face. "Next time you're in my courtroom, I won't be doubting you. You've earned my respect." A smile tugged at the corner of my lips. "I'll keep that in mind, Your Honor." As I left the courtroom that day, the weight of the victory settled in. But it wasn't just the legal win that I felt proud of. It was the way I had stood my ground when everyone else doubted me. It was the way I had turned their mockery into something powerful. I had proven not just my worth, but my truth. Age isn't a barrier to greatness. It's just a number. And that was something I would carry with me, no matter where life took me next. The days that followed were a whirlwind. I had gained attention from the legal community, and people started recognizing my name. But for me, the victory wasn't about fame or proving people wrong. It was about something deeper. About showing the world that determination, hard work, and passion could break through any barrier. I went back to my regular routine, studying for the next cases I would handle. But things were different now. I wasn't just a teenager with potential. I was someone who had earned respect. And more importantly, I had earned the trust of those who had once looked down on me. I received letters of congratulations from the judge and even from the prosecutor, who, despite his earlier mocking, sent me a note acknowledging my skills and offering his advice. It felt surreal, but it was also a reminder that the journey was far from over. And then there was my client. When I saw him again, he was a different person, grateful, confident, and ready to move on with his life. He thanked me, and though I appreciated his words, I told him the same thing I had said throughout the case. I'm just doing my job. You deserve this. The most emotional part of it all came later, when I sat at my room and thought about everything that had happened. The doubts, the mockery, the struggle. I realized that what I had achieved was more than just a courtroom win. It was a personal victory. It was proof that I could make a difference, no matter who doubted me. I knew this wasn't the end of my story. In fact, it was just the beginning, and as I looked ahead, I felt more confident than ever, because if I could win this case, I could win anything. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this incredible journey of loyalty and redemption. If you were moved by the story of Officer Tom and Max, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on more heartwarming and powerful content like this. If you enjoyed the video, like it to show your support, and feel free to leave a comment below. We'd love to hear your thoughts and feelings about this emotional story, and don't forget to share this video with friends and family who might appreciate it too. Your support helps us continue bringing you impactful, real stories that inspire and touch hearts. Thank you for being a part of this amazing community. It wasn't about being a genius, it was about believing in myself and never giving up. That was the real lesson I had learned, and with that, I knew that I was ready for whatever came next.